Ashley, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
So you and I were hanging out at NTMA Engage recently, and we were kind of sitting across the aisle on the bus going to a shop tour, and you shared the most amazing story about the beginning of your business, and I got choked up. I think my wife did too. She was sitting next to me, and I'm like, I have to have you on the show and share this story, because even though you're not like a classic machine shop in the sense what I normally interview, it's like your story from that origin, then what the growth is of what you've done with the company since is some, I think, great wisdom for other people to learn from. So let's start by giving a little bit of snapshot of what your business is today, what it kind of looks like, exactly what you serve, what you do, and then we'll get into the backstory.
Yeah, sure. So HTS Coatings, we are a thermal spray shop. So what we do is we specialize in wear and corrosion resistant coatings. So basically we provide metal coatings on parts. So again, where wear is happening, we can spray a coating that will make it last significantly longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do have a full machine shop and grind shop as well too. So that's kind of the connection to the NTMA is through that side of the shop.
Okay. And approximately what kind of employee count do you have today? And I don't know, how do you classify equipment or value-added resources?
Yeah. So a couple of fun things about us. So in the thermal spray industry, there are very few companies like us. So there's quite a few just mom and pop shops who offer one thermal spray operation. But HTS, we offer every thermal spray technology under our roof except for cold spray. Mm-hmm. So we like to say that we offer large company capabilities with small company care, because we can do everything the big guys do, just at a much smaller family-owned scale. So that's kind of our little niche there.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And then employee count, so we're at 25. So we started in 2015. We started with 6 employees, and we're at 25 today. So
that's nice growth.
Yeah.
All right. So please do share the origin story of this business.
The origin story. So there's like a lot, and I actually took a walk this weekend with like an Audible thing that would just record it all, and it was like a lot of pages. So just tell me if I get too long and you're like, okay, cut that off.
No, go for it.
Really, so it really probably starts, so HTS Coatings started in 2015, but really it goes back quite a few years before that. So my husband and I, we took something called Financial Peace University through Dave Ramsey. Mm-hmm. So, and that was probably about 12 years ago. So we were like those crazy people with the envelopes and the cash and like making sure that we were debt free. Mm-hmm. And then I also worked for a company. I worked for a sister company that my husband worked for. And then I worked for a corporate office, and I was doing financial projections, working with the board there at that big corporation. And I was under a lot of stress. And then our doctor, unfortunately, had a miscarriage pretty early. And our doctor was like, you need to reduce some stress. So we thought, okay, well, let's sell our house. I quit my job, and then I thought I had the stomach bug, but turns out I was pregnant. We found all that out in 1 week. So that was quite life-changing. So it's okay. We're going to build our dream house. We move into what we lovingly call the tiny home. So it's roughly about 700, 800 square feet. So we were moved in there, but it's okay. We're going to build our dream house. We've, again, kind of stocked away our down payment for the house. We had 8 acres purchased already. And again, like all cash driven through the Dave Ramsey plan. So we were like, we can handle this. We can do this. So we moved into that house. And again, I quit my job. So we had two children at the time, our older 2 boys. Mm-hmm. And Jason came home from work about maybe May timeframe and was like, I think they're going to sell my business. And I was like, I don't know. Well, that's not too bad. Just go work for whoever they sell it to. It's going to be fine.
Right.
And then he came home and was like, no, they are going to liquidate the business. So he's like, instead of building a dream house, what do you think about going into business together? So I got my spreadsheet out, started crunching some numbers, and was like, I think we can do this. I think we can do this. So our daughter April was born May 2nd. And just for kicks, that same year, in June 15th of 2015, I registered on LegalZoom for an LLC. So just in case, just in case things go down. So Jason came home July 31st and was like, nope, they announced today they're closing it. So it was a thermal spray shop in St. Louis. and they had been around for about 50 years. So, and Jason had worked for them. So Jason's story is pretty cool too. So through high school shop class, he worked as a machinist there.
Nice.
And so that's kind of his background. So he worked as a machinist and worked his way up through that company. And so he was the vice president at the time in 2015.
Okay.
So he came back and was like, I think we can do this. So they made the announcement, and unfortunately he had to fire all 50 employees.
Oh my gosh.
And they shut their doors. Yes.
That's so hard.
It was really a horrible time, but they shut their doors on August 31st. So, we were going to do this. So, and we had this kind of cash stocked away for our house.
Yep.
So we went to the banks and we actually presented to 5 different banks, all of which turned us down. So one of my favorite stories, I keep taking sidetracks, so just bring me back if I need to, but one bank, they called it like 9 o'clock at night and was like, we can see you at 7 o'clock in the morning. And we have 3 kids, a newborn actually at the time too. And so we trucked all 3 kids in at 7 o'clock the next morning into this bank, into this big boardroom. And it wasn't anything that I was too nervous about because I presented to boards before, like, here's the financials, so I was setting out the financials, holding April. She was probably, like 3 weeks old. So I'm holding her, passing out the financials and like, okay, let's talk about this. And I was like explaining something and she spit up breast milk like all over the table. And it was so, and I don't even think I just had a sweater on and I just cleaned it all up, like just wiped it all up with my sweater and like, all right, you have any questions? That bank, I know.
Spoken like a true mom. Yeah.
And I don't think the banker was a dad because his eyes were like huge as saucers, like, what just happened? It's fine.
Yeah.
Clean that up. They didn't give us a loan. And so, we just kind of thought that maybe it was dead. It was the idea was dead. And then a couple days later, a lady called and she was in Festus, Missouri, which is basically nowhere, at a bank I'd never heard of. And she said, I saw your business plan and I think I can close your small business loan. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So got a hold of her and she was able to close our loan super fast. And she was like aggressive. Oh my goodness. I would highly recommend her. She's no longer a banker now. She started her own business, but she was fabulous. So anyway, she was leading us through this process, and then the whole time St. Louis Metallizing is closing and Jason's shutting it down, so it's all kind of happening simultaneously.
Sure.
So after Jason closed their doors, laid off everybody, then the equipment was going to auction. So the auction was scheduled for October 15th. So again, we're just rapidly trying to get the documentation to the bank, get going, because we have to get the small business loan because we want to go to auction and buy the equipment to start.
You need the money to do that.
Right. And we need money to do that. Yes. So we got it pretty well all the way there, got all the documents. We actually signed a lease. We hired 6 employees. I basically said, I'll start paying you payroll October 1st. We had signed contracts with them, signed the 5-year lease. And I don't know if you've ever done an SBA loan, but it's like you have to do everything prior to actually closing. So again,
Sure.
5-year lease was signed. And a couple things, we had gone to a couple other auctions to buy forklifts. And at this point, our credit cards are maxed out. And again, the Financial Peace University in me is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did all that. But, we're going to close on the small business loan. We'll pay it off. It'll be fine. So our credit cards are maxed. We've signed a 5-year lease. And the one final step of closing the small business loan was that I had to both of us had to have a life insurance policy in the amount of the loan. So in the event that we pass, the SBA loan would be covered. So that was the last final piece. We're not smokers. We were healthy. It was 10 years ago, so we were significantly healthier, than we are now. So it was going to be no big deal. Like, we're going to pass. It's going to be great. Our banker was like, we're going to keep going, keep doing all the things. And it was like probably maybe October 1st timeframe. And I got a call saying that the insurance company would not cover me. I am uninsurable because I was a stay-at-home mom and I was worth more dead than I was alive. So with that insurance policy off the table, I'd have to find another life insurance policy people to cover me, and to and it would just take too long. We'd miss the auction. Okay. So basically I got that call. Jason was already at the shop, setting up setting up shop, dropping airlines, dropping power, doing all the things. And again, see where we're at. We've got employees working, credit cards maxed, everything's on the line. I call him, I was like, you need to come home. I was denied the life insurance policy. So he came home, the kids were in the backyard playing. And I remember we just sat in the backyard. I was holding April, and we just stared at the back fence. Like, we didn't really talk. We were young. We had taken this risk. We thought, okay, we'll do it all. We cashed in our 401ks. I mean, literally, we had it all on the line. And we sat there and just, I don't even know what we were thinking, but we just, okay, we're going to file bankruptcy and move on with our lives. Kind of like, okay, we'll just move on, So we sat there and it was a good 2 hours and my phone rings and out of the blue, don't make me cry, Paul. You're going to make me cry.
Sorry.
Out of the blue, this guy calls and he's like, Ashley Hunsaker? I'm like, yes. He's like, I am so-and-so, the CEO of such and such life insurance company, and I have personally approved your policy. So it's back on. So, and I just remember like, oh my word. And this weekend when I was thinking about this story, I need to look up, see who he was exactly, and just have him come out to the shop and tour because of his risk for us. He took a risk to sign the life insurance policy that I'd be worth it. The lives that he's affected, the lives that he has enhanced through HTS Coatings has just been tremendous. So then it was full force, and I can't say that it was all roses.
It never is.
Yes, but we did close on October 5th on our small business loan. Don't cry. Closed on October 5th on our small business loan, and my husband, if you ever get to meet him, he's not super romantic, but he is romantic in his own way. And so I remember when we moved into the tiny home, we're going to build our house, like that's what we're going to do. So we're not going to be in the tiny home long. So when we moved in, he's like, we're not hanging any pictures, any of those things. And when we signed on October 5th, he came home with a hammer and nails and was like, all right, where do you want this hung? Because we're going to be here a while, So, so that was very romantic of him to do that. So, but we just took off with Jason's company closing. Word spread really rapidly in the industry, and we started producing parts very, very quickly. We actually didn't even have three-phase power in the shop. Okay. So we rented a generator because we had customers in our parking lot. So we literally plugged in our grinders using an extension cord and a rented generator to get parts out the door as fast as possible. Yeah. So it was pretty crazy there in the early times, but then we did get three-phase power actually on Christmas Eve that year. So 2015, our electrician came, with that suit and flipped the breaker for the three-phase power, and we were alive. So that was pretty great, and it really pretty fast. Like again, the work just came in. God blessed us beyond our wildest dreams. And again, I can't say that it's all been roses, but I remember again, we're in the tiny home, and it must have been the summer of 2016 to 2016, and we are tight. I mean, just financially tight, and I do feel like one of my goals as a business owner is to protect our employees too. So protect them and give them the tools to succeed. If you said in my employee orientation, that's what I would tell you. Like my two roles as the owner is those two things. So protecting them was to make sure that their payroll was always paid, but not necessarily ours.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah. So in those early days, I remember the rent for the tiny home was nothing, but I had to call and I can't pay rent this month. Thankfully our landlord was super gracious and knew what we were going through and was like, it's okay, just pay when you can, So I think it was about 3 months that we went without paying rent. And just like we wouldn't drive anywhere, and then that summer too, so I have a 9, 8, and a 1-year-old at the time, and I'm like, everybody's talking about going to Six Flags, and I'm like, oh, we can't do that. I can't do that. Sure. So I looked up all the parks in our area. So especially parks that we could walk to. So we would walk to parks, and that was kind of our fun for the summer. That was our vacation. But I remember one night Jason came home, and I'm probably going to cry again, Paul, Jiminy Christmas. There was a grocery store not too far. So we put the baby in the stroller and we walked to the grocery store and we bought a carton of ice cream, and we just bought plastic spoons and we ate it on the way home,
Mm-hmm.
And I was crying because I'm like, this is the best I can give my kids, this summer, like, just a carton of ice cream and a walk, and literally my 15-year-old just a couple weeks ago was like, Mom, do you remember when we took that walk when we lived in the tiny house and we went and got ice cream? It's like, that was the best day ever. So it's just like amazing how your family or how your kids take it to you. And they're just so versatile, and like, they just, they eat. Yeah, like, don't make me cry, Paul. So it's been hard. It's been hard. But it's been so good. Like, that's the other thing too, like, as I sit back and reflect on the past 9 years, like, so much sacrifice, but so good too. So good. Like, I think our family is strong because we've gone through things together, especially our kids too. And sometimes I worry, like, should the kids have seen those things? Should I have really been like, but they hear everything, like we've homeschooled our oldest 2 boys forever.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it, their desks in my office,
Mm-hmm.
so they hear things, but then, like, they are so mature, and then just knowing the value of hard work. They see us work hard, and I think that's good too. So we're truly a family business, and it's worth it. So it's, my gosh, is it hard. And actually, I was reading over some of your questions too. You were like, one of the questions, like, what should shops, or what would you give people to encourage them in their early journey? So after we had started HTS and all of those things were happening, we did have a minority partner,
Mm-hmm.
and we did have to terminate him pretty quickly. And if you research us, our name used to be HB, and then we bought him out and we changed our name to HTS Coatings. So, but then after that, in 2018, Jason and I joined a company called C12, which is an executive business roundtable. So here in St. Louis, there's two groups that meet.
Mm-hmm.
And, so rewind a little bit. Growing up, I grew up in Indiana, and I really thought that I was just going to be a farmer's wife. I grew up really, really strict. My best friend was a Mennonite, so I thought I was going to marry a Yoder and I'm literally, so for me to sit here in a machine shop is just mind blowing how God just, made my path that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I was an accountant. Jason's an engineer and a machinist by trade, but we didn't know how to run a business, how to be owners and make decisions on a higher level. So when we joined C12, they gave us the tools to succeed. I tell people they gave us our executive's degree. So we meet once a month. We go over a curriculum. We go over best practices. But really, it's just about how to love our people better. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really been the key to our success, is just loving people deeply. It will also hurt deeply when you love deeply, but it's also worth it too. So, yeah.
Ooh, holy smokes. That is an amazing story. No, it's fantastic. It's so inspiring. And you just really, I think, nail it on the core of, like, entrepreneurship and sort of the American, success story of what you've done. And the importance. I think it's fantastic that your kids have a front seat to what this, what you've done. And undoubtedly they've matured and, have better perspective than what a normal kid that doesn't have exposure to that would be exposed to at this day and age. Right. So, and the story of the ice cream, so good.
Oh man.
So I'm sure people are going to ask and be curious, and hope that I ask, with a business that seemingly had so many customers that wanted to send work, why did the first business shut down?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So So, and I'll just tell you, it's St. Louis Metallizing is the name of the company that was around for 50 years. And it was actually right downtown St. Louis, right next to Barnes Jewish Hospital. So, and the hospitals are booming, and the land was worth more than the business was actually bringing in. So that was the reason for
So they just
the
sold
corporate office. Yep.
And moving it just to a different location wasn't something they thought was worth doing?
No, so there's we petitioned for that too. Like, all right, let us just move it, and let us take it over. And nope, they wanted to liquidate it. So they are also very heavy in very large construction projects, and it didn't fit in their wheelhouse either. Kind of like their redheaded stepchild a little bit.
Right.
So it was just easy to let that go. So it was the perfect storm, and it just landed in our lap. And so run with it, even though we don't know what we're running with, So that's kind of what we did.
Yeah. And getting involved in that coaching group sounds like just an incredibly smart move. Most people that start businesses have no idea what they're doing. When we started ours, we certainly had no idea what we were doing. We were fresh out of college. So, ultimately for us, getting it was just a single business advisor, through the local SBDC. But, he was instrumental in helping us. He actually helped us avoid bankruptcy because we were almost went through that after 9/11 when our business dried up. So I think the takeaway of ask for help, acknowledge that you don't know everything. It's okay. You don't need, especially with guys that feel like they need to just know everything and be in control. It's like, it's probably, I'd say more brave to admit that you don't know what that you don't know everything, and ask for help. And,
And that's also why I joined the NTMA too, because I want to learn more about machining and grinding too. So, and they do offer that too, that support group. Yeah. So that would, again, be my biggest takeaway for somebody starting off is make sure you have that peer group. And I know some of them come with a price, and it seems, I remember when we joined C12, I was like, oh my word. First off, it wasn't necessarily the cost. It was you want me to meet for a full day in a month? Like, I can't go away from the shop for a full day. But that just, and they say it all the time, focus on your business, not in your business, just pulling you out for a day, Engage, go to Engage, pull out for a couple days, and just, I think so clearly at those conferences too. And again, you're just not doing the day-to-day stuff, making POs, cutting payroll. It's just get involved in those. It doesn't. Yeah.
Was that a forcing function for you to put other people in roles of responsibility where they could keep doing the things that you would do and you were then gone?
Yes. So, are you talking about letting go, delegate, elevate?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So actually, one of your questions too is what is your biggest challenge right now? I would have to say that that's probably it. So HTS is projected to grow about 50% this year. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Congratulations. That is so cool.
Yes. So, but in order to do that, Jason and I both have to let go, and it is our baby. But part of it too is so we do run on EOS, and so we do and I am systematize and make sure that everybody's following it all the time. So if we got a procedure written, let's keep and let's push it down. So it is hard, but it is self-reflective too, because my degree is in accounting, so I love accounting. They did a psych analysis on us through our C12 group. And really, I don't like to be wrong. I don't like to look like an idiot. So I think I know how to do accounting. So I can do that really well. But then our team is like, Ashley, you need to go into outside sales. So another thing too about HTS, we've never had outside sales. It's always been word of mouth. So in order to get that growth, we need dedicated sales teams. So they've kind of tagged Jason and I together are a dynamite team. So he knows all the technical stuff, because he's that machinist. He's grew up with it. He's seen a lot of it. And then I love the people part of it too. So then when you combine us together, hopefully we'll grow 50% this year through our sales. But so I think that's the fear for me is I can do accounting. I know how to do accounting. I've done it for years.
Yep. But
to let that go and to step into a seat that I've never done before is scary. And I don't like to look like an idiot either. So I don't want to step in that seat, look like an idiot. But if we don't do it, I really feel like we're at that point where it's almost like starting the business again. There are a couple of risks that we have to put out, like hiring a top tier operations director, hiring a really good accountant, and the overhead is expensive and we have to have the revenue to cover it. But then it's like, well, who's going to do the revenue until I get these 2 seats filled? How do I go get this seat? So it does feel scary all over again. Maybe not to the gravity that the tiny home was, but still, it's just another risk, another growth hurdle that we're going through right now.
Yeah, there is definitely that chicken and egg, right? To hire, to free up the capacity to go do the sales, or do the sales to get the revenue to be able to hire.
Right.
So are you, is it a little bit of each, or how are you navigating that?
So actually right now in the last 2 months, we've made 2 really good hires. So for our director of ops and for our controller.
Nice.
So, and then we did our annual planning the beginning of October. And again, I think, so we actually hire an implementer through EOS. So we fly a guy up from Florida to St. Louis, and he is, oh my goodness, he's phenomenal. And he pulled me aside. He's done it for us for 3 years now. And he pulled me aside and he said, Ashley, you have all the right people in that room and you guys are going to take off this year. So it just gives like, oh my gosh, let's go, like, okay. So, but it is letting go because they'll do it a little bit different than me. And that's okay too, so it's like, and I've told them, tell me, I got it, just let me do it. So I'm okay with letting go, but I also like to be needed too. So,
we all do.
I don't want to just disappear, so I want to be here. So that's just that torn growth business owner, I guess, inside of me. But
how did you ensure that you found and hired really great people? What did you focus on in that process?
Yeah, so that's a really good question too, and I can't say that we didn't fail a few times. So, but we are very dedicated with our core values, our 4 core values, and we do tell them that we hire and fire through them.
Nice.
But then, like you don't know somebody very well in an interview, and I had read something once, like, let's go on a first date and get married, because that's kind of what an interview process is, you're like, oh, I kind of like you, let's get married, like after, it's so true. So,
totally.
So you don't really know, but again, I think EOS has really made that clear. So, we also use the Colby. So you can maybe see my Colby back there, but so we do that Colby analysis too.
I'm not familiar with that. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's here. Maybe I'll just grab. Let me roll over there. Hang on. Okay. So it's basically it's like a psych test kind of thing too. So which ones you are, how good is your follow through? Are you a really high fact finder? Quick start just means like if I hear a good idea, I want to change it right away. So classic visionary, I guess. So we actually do that for the seat before we interview anyone. So it's called a Colby C. So we do this test, and we have a couple of people on our team do it. Like, what does that seat look like? What does that ideal person look like? And then we have the applicants do this test. And if they match, they give us a scalability of success in that role. So
is that part of EOS specifically?
So it's like a tack on for EOS. Like EOS definitely promotes Colby, but it's not an EOS function, I guess.
Sure.
But but I'm going to tell you, I hired a guy who fit it perfectly for our director of ops, but did not fit us culturally. So there's that, you can check all the right boxes, have all the right experience, but just culturally, we're just different. So, oh my goodness,
so
I can't tell you.
What did you learn from that when you hired the good director now that you did differently?
Yeah.
Maybe asking more about values and leaning into that part of it?
Yes. And again, the new ones have only been here for about 4 weeks. So I'm still learning a little bit, but definitely, And it is like, I know that hiring is such like a touchy subject too, but getting them exposed to the team too. So valuing the shop floor employees' input
Mm-hmm.
on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's maybe where I did it wrong before, and not getting the input of the team. And they don't need to be involved in the interview, but their initial gut reaction to like, how did he relate to you? The new guy actually just let him walk the shop like by himself, like for an
Mm-hmm.
hour, like go talk to the guys, so, and
Mm.
then after he left, then I went and talked to all the guys, okay, give me
Sure.
feedback, give me feedback, give me feedback. So I don't know that that's possible for every interview, but definitely for a higher level, I mean, those are the people he's going to be dealing with. So I need to hear their input, and I value the guy on the floor, what he has to say too. So I think that was really the kind of curveball for us on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so far, he's been a game changer. So I can't stop smiling when I think about it. So it
That's
so
awesome.
far really great. So
That's fantastic. What are your four core values, if you don't mind sharing?
so yeah, our four core values are our first one is camaraderie. So we believe in being a family, and I know family kind of comes with a bad connotation sometimes. It can be good, it can be bad. I come from a broken household, but this is my family. I love coming into work. I love it when I'm gone. Like I was gone for a couple weeks on doing some sales calls, and when I came back, I walked the shop, and every single employee gave me a hug. So like I'm just so happy to be home. Like this is great. So we do believe in camaraderie. So we celebrate successes. We do have a care team as well. So and then we have a 501c3 like a care team fund. So if you have a devastating event happen in your life, we want to be able to help you out on those things too.
Wow.
So that's what camaraderie is to us. And then we have willing to change. So I tell people we are a different company than we were 9 years ago when we started, and we're a different company than we were 6 months ago. So I love change. I think change is great. Let's change it all the time. But sometimes people don't like change that much, so I
Mm-hmm.
have to be real careful not to change too much. But also, we change for the good of the company too. So change for the good of the company. Be willing to invest in new technology that is coming out, and take a risk. We're risk takers, so willing to change. Gratitude. So gratitude. I actually just showed this video in our state of the company address, but basically says that if you want to change the world, start with your own heart and be grateful, because out of gratitude comes everything good, everything good. And out of ingratitude comes everything bad,
Mm-hmm.
comes the hate and the injustice and the, promoting yourself over anybody else, so
Sure.
that we don't want that. So let's be grateful. And I'll tell you too, like sometimes I get pretty stressed, at work, like, oh my goodness, we got so much going on. And I had an employee come in and was like, Ashley, you're stressed, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, I'm stressed. What are you grateful for? And it just, oh, okay. So we hold each other accountable. And then I sat there and I was like, you know what? My gosh, I'm so grateful that we get to do this work,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
This is what we get to do. I love this work. So yeah, it's a lot and it's overwhelming, but this is what I'm grateful for. And it just changed the whole day, changed the whole day. I love that accountability for us too. Like
Absolutely.
just because I'm the owner doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. So come and what are you grateful for today? So, and it just changes things. So if you're having a bad day, list out 10 things you're grateful for. So we've done it for years, years. We've had Gratitude Friday. Now we do it on Winning Wednesdays. We have a whole team meeting
Mm-hmm.
where we all get together, and every week we have to say something we're grateful for. I had an employee once who was like, I don't know that I can do this every week. And I was like, yes, you can. You can do this every week. And then, at Christmas time, every vendor sends you a calendar.
Yep.
And I gave him one. I was like, just write one thing down on the calendar every day. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it can be something as simple as running water, like
Sure.
we're grateful for that. Well, he bought a new house pretty far away, so he had to leave us. But still on a random Friday, I'll get a text from him. Hey, Ashley, I'm grateful for X, so that's
Wow.
great. Okay, so gratitude and then high expectations. So high expectations for us means that we work hard, and we're going to set high standards. It If you've ever read the book, The Great Game of Business, I feel like our team is exactly that. So you did ask about transparency too on our books. we're pretty transparent on our books, and we're pretty gamified too. Like, we're going to write it on the floor, how many we get done. Let's beat it. Let's go. And our team, if I put a goal out there, oh my gosh, they blow my mind all the time, and they exceed it. And I'm like, how did we do that? I should have set it higher, like, so with this big, 50% growth expected this year, I'm scared. I feel like, whoo, that's going to be a lot, but man, I think our team can do it. So with high expectations too, we do believe that good work should be rewarded. So a couple things, we're part of the Illinois Manufacturing Association. We do pay above industry standard for every single position out in our shop, because they're worth it. They're working hard. They deserve it. And then we do offer a profit sharing program too. So you're going to laugh, but it's called a HUYA. So head out of your biblical donkey. Okay. So we give a bonus. I know, right? It's so weird.
That's awesome.
So head out of your biblical donkey is the name of our bonus program. But really, if you just keep your head out of your donkey and do your work, you're going to get a bonus. So do what's right, show up to work, be dependable. Let's get our jobs done. So those are, they're pretty simple, but they're life changing, and again, those are the filter that we filter every single hire through. Every single termination, that since we've set our core values, I've actually said, you don't meet this core value, and this is why we're letting you go. So again, it always focused back on those 4 core values. And then it rolls up to our mission and our vision statement. So our mission statement is that the coatings of HTS Coatings would enhance lives. You see it on my shirt, for the glory of God. So we want to do what's right, no matter what the cost. So, and what we believe is right is what's found in the Bible. And so I tell people all the time too, I'm not one of those crazy people who are going to make you shave your head and drink Kool-Aid. I just want to do what's right and love you better.
Well, that's so good. Those are really good values, by the way. And you already know it, but those are just so good. And when I conceived of this podcast, I didn't have core values as like high on my radar as one of the topics that will be sort of thematic across my guests. But I swear there's not just correlation, there's causality. I think when companies have good core values and live by them, and they recruit by them, and they have those employees believe in it, which clearly is working. If you have an employee coming and reminding you about it, then it's so aligning that turns into better performance for the business. So yes, anyone listening that doesn't have core values, take it from Ashley. They're worth putting the time and effort into making really good ones, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And not only does it focus the team, but it focuses me too. Like, does that align with our core values? Then yes, it's the compass that leads us. So yes, definitely take some time. And then at every year for the past 2 years, so I say every year, like we do it all the time, but for the past 2 years, we've actually had the team nominate an employee who demonstrates, each core value. So, and they get a pretty good sized gift card. But the team votes for each other. And so this year, I thought it was actually pretty great. There was not one blowout, standout employee. We were all voting for each other. And I told the team, I'm like, that was pretty amazing too, to think that like there wasn't like one, like, oh, Paul, you were awesome at all 4 core values. It was pretty spread evenly throughout the whole team. So that means that we're all demonstrating those core values really, really well. And that was a success too, to see that too. So that was cool.
That's so good. So I'm getting a sense of how when you have someone come in the door to hire them, this is your process. How do you get them to come in the door in the first place? Finding enough skilled people is one of every shop's biggest challenges. I'm sure it likely is for you as well. How do you get that exposure for people to actually come and apply?
Right. So, and again, we've failed a few times on this.
Sure, of course.
But I think the biggest success has been word of mouth. So employee referrals. So we do offer, a bonus for an employee referral if the employee refers somebody and they stay for over 90 days. So that has been our largest success. And then just knowing your marketing. So LinkedIn is more to gain customers on a marketing scale. And then Facebook is more for talent recruitment. So if you check our Facebook out, it's more culture and like, hey, we did the HTS family float trip, or hey, we did the chili cook-off. I do that on LinkedIn too, but that's not my goal for LinkedIn. But my goal for Facebook is to gain talent. So I remember one time we posted, so I'll have to share the link, but it was a video. We just did a quick little video of do not apply here. So don't apply here. And we had the camera kind of come into the office and, they were pretty like we are FAA drug screened approved. So, don't apply here if you can't pee clean. And we had a guy holding apple juice, in the bathroom and like, oh, and then he had a DARE shirt on, like drugs are really expensive, and then like coming, going through the shop and like, don't apply here if you can't handle the heat. And I was pouring water over one of our welders. So he was just dripping, like sweat. And then at the very end, it was like, don't apply here if you can't be loved like family. And one of the guys picked up a little guy and like walked him back to the breaker in his arms. But that got so much traction, so much response too, because again, people are looking for that. They want to be a part of something that matters, something that's going to change. And, we might not change the world, but we're going to change the people who are underneath this roof, and then who knows where that could go. That could change the world. So let's invest in them. So again, kind of employee referrals. I have been doing some LinkedIn, like reaching out to some people on there, but we have the dream team out there and they're doing more with less people. So, and then also like thermal spray is not something that you go to school for. So we had to come up with our own training program. Yep. So again, taking pictures and processes and documentation and okay, we're going to train you this and levels. So we have level 1, level 2, level 3, and pay scales based on that too. So again, kind of a career path. And we're still working out some kinks with that. It's not quite to where I want it to be, but I think that's it too. Even if just start with some sort of training program, some sort of get them in career path. They want to see where it could go. And even too, like sometimes I present our accountability chart and like, okay, this is where we're at today. But in 3 years, when we triple our size, we're going to be 60 employees. So where do you see yourself?
Right.
Do you like quality? Well, we're going to have a full quality department in that time, so you're going to move up there. I would do it cautionary though, too, because sometimes the younger kids think that that's a promise and it's not necessarily, and you have to say, this is not a promise. Let's just dream. And how are we going to get you there? And it's not going to happen today. This is our 3-year plan,
Right.
So just being very, very clear with expectations with employees, I think is huge.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You on the financials, the profit sharing is fantastic. Are you guys relatively open book, or how much transparency do you share on our finances?
Yeah, so they know exactly our revenue. We put it up every quarter. We do correlate it down to hours. So we do say, this is how much revenue we're going to hit this year, and they know. And then we also correlate, okay, if it's this number of revenue, it's going to be this number of shipped hours that we have to ship. So, and we track the hours because the hours are what's on the job order or the job traveler.
Yep.
So they're seeing that each time they process, each time they clock in, they calculate it in their head like, I shipped 27 hours this week by doing this much work,
Got it.
So that's how we make it applicable for them. Because if you set a big goal and you never show them how you're getting to that goal, shame on us for not showing them that. So no, they pretty much know. They know it.
I think you're right. I think it helps, just like with your values, it helps get alignment. It helps get buy-in. It's like everyone's rowing in the same direction that you're helping lead them to. That's fantastic. You mentioned marketing and sales, and obviously you getting out and you and Jason going and doing sales. Was the direction of all that and the ideas around it, did that come from the EOS plan, or is that a separate thing? I'm not as familiar with the marketing and sales side of EOS.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of did, just because EOS says that you have to have, your visionary, your integrator, your sales and marketing, ops, and then finance. That's kind of their org chart schedule, kind of, or template. And ours was always empty on the sales side of things. Yeah.
So being sales and marketing driven, I think is something that not every business owner gravitates to, right? But I firmly believe it's one of the most important things that can lead to growth of the business. How did you approach? You said in the org chart template, yours was empty.
Right.
How did you decide what you're actually going to do? Because there's lots of different ways to do sales and marketing.
For sure.
Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah. So kind of our marketing has been pretty strong. And I think EOS really kind of helped us discover what we wanted to market around. And also, so we became an EOS company in 2020. So for 4 years, we've been running on EOS. And I think EOS really changed us to how to, what our ideal client was. So when we defined that, it was really much easier to do the marketing based on the ideal client. So kind of the same thing for hiring. What's your ideal hire? It was kind of very, very similar. So I had an assistant who did some data entry for me part-time. She had really little kids. She was with us for maybe about 7 years. And she was like, you know what? I would just have her post on Facebook for us, post on Facebook this. And she's like, I love the social media aspect of it, the creativeness of it. And I was like, oh, girl, teach yourself. So she taught herself all sorts of stuff. So pretty much everything you see on, our website, on LinkedIn, everywhere, all of our logo, all of the things, she designed it all. So she did such a great job. Oh my goodness. And she was so talented. She was actually doing so she was an engineer by trade. So she knew how to speak the language when she would write a blog too. So, but unfortunately, she left us just in July, which is great though, because she went and pursued. She actually has a civil engineering degree, so she's going back to full-time civil engineering. So now it's like trying to pick up that marketing piece too, and figure out sales too. So it's an overwhelming task. So I'm a little bit overwhelmed. I don't know how else to say it, but. So I did take a class through the NTMA, actually. So I did the sales cohort through the NTMA, and I think that was really good too. So just reminding me how to price things well, how to sell on value, not on cost. So those are good things too. So we're still learning, Paul. I don't know that I have a great answer for that, but
that in and of itself is a great answer. So I want to bring up something you mentioned when we were on the bus, how, EOS has sort of the integrator and the visionary. You mentioned visionary, and you had Jason in the visionary and you were the integrator, but you're thinking you might be flipping that around. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think in the early days, when we first picked up a book, the EOS book, Jason and I read it together. So we read Traction. I didn't finish it. Don't tell anybody through EOS that I didn't finish it because it was so boring. But it's really good principles. So, but I got to the chapter, and I remember we were on an airplane. I can't remember where we were going, but we were together, and we were both reading. He had one book, and I had another book, and we were reading the chapter on the visionary integrator. And I started crying because it talks about how the integrator just does so much work and is knocking stuff out. And the visionary is all frustrated because the integrator is not doing what he thinks, their vision is. But the integrator's like, oh my gosh, your vision is too big to even fulfill. You got to write a PO to do that. And you can't see all the details. So I think that probably saved our marriage. So just knowing that, oh, okay. And just having that respect, his ideas are big and great, but I don't have to do everything. So sometimes I'm like, just dream with me, but tell me I don't have to do it right now, because he'll dream what if we, I don't know, go buy 20 shops and what does that look like? And I'm like, okay, let me research 20 shops, go buy right now. So it's that control piece, where we kind of balance each other very, very, very well. But then as the company has grown and I've delegated off, I think those daily ops tasks, accounting tasks, I'm getting up to this point where it's I kind of like dreaming about the business too, and maybe not so much on the technical aspect and on the research side of it, but dreaming on how we can enhance more lives. How do we love people better? How do we grow this company to make an impact for our community, for our nation, for the trades in general, just empowering people to say that this is a worthy job. This is a good job where we'll love you and you can provide for your family. So I think that's where that's coming in for me too. And then we did those Colby analysis. It's been about 18 months since we did that. And I took mine thinking, no big deal. Well, the lady who did that for us, she actually sat me down and was like, Ashley, I know you're listed as the integrator on the org chart, but she's like, you are a classic visionary. And I was like, oh, what? Like, ew, I don't want to be that. And if you go to like the EOS conferences, they like label you, you're like integrator,
Oh, wow.
visionary, and then it is like, they are diametrically opposed foes because the visionary is so like, let's go. And the integrator's like, you got to get this done first. And again, without the two of them, it would just be chaos, like just thinking about it. Like if somebody's just in the weeds all the time, we wouldn't be where we are without the dream of technology that Jason brought into the shop, So again, it's that respect for both positions, both talents. So again, as I'm getting up there, I'm like, oh, okay. So what does that look like for me? That was actually one of our core business presentations for our C12 group. We actually brought it to our C12 group, showed our accountability chart, like, well, let's talk through this. And we haven't quite solved it yet, but I think as we grow, probably what'll happen is Jason will move into a role called like Chief Technology Officer, Research Development kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I will take the role of the visionary. Listen to me take a big, okay. Again, the fear, like, okay, I've never been that before. I've never been sales before, but let's just grow. And then again, though, that's one of our core values, willing to change. I've never done that before, but let's change. Let's try it. Let's do it. So,
That's fantastic. On the willingness to change, does that tie into, and do you do any like formal continuous improvement activities?
Yeah, that's
it seems
funny
aligned
too.
to that one.
Yeah. So one thing about HTS Coatings is we have been a job shop. So for a long time, we do like to get more production style work, but we are a job shop. So you can lean a job shop, but it is harder to do that when it's always changing and it's different. It's not the same thing every single day. So we definitely would like to do more lean. Our new director of ops is big on lean. So we will get there. I would love to be lean. And it's funny that even my kids are like, if you move your trash can over there, Mom, it'd be better. Like,
Nice.
And actually just recently, just last week, I have a box for shredding and my kids were like, just bring the shredder in here and shred one page at a time. Then you don't have the box. I'm like, oh yeah, duh, okay.
One piece flow. There you go.
Yeah. So when it comes to lean, we would love to be lean. I think that's probably going to be our next really big like goal for the year is to do that, to be definitely more lean. I think we can save a lot of cost, a lot of waste if we did that.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Our shop was a job shop very much through and through, and we made enormous strides when we formally kind of embraced lean principles and had Kaizen events and value stream mapping events and just worked on eliminating waste, training your team on what different wastes look like, just drill it in all the time. So as they're going about their day, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing transportation right now, or I'm doing motion, or I'm doing over processing, or whatever it is. Then they can write it down and
how long did it take you to implement?
Work on it. Well, I mean, any practitioner of lean will say you're never done with it, right? It's a continuous journey.
Right.
So, there's no end goal besides just continuing to get better all the time, which is already a core value of yours, right? Willingness to change.
Right.
But I would say it was, it's been many years now. We kicked that off probably in like 2004, so 20 years ago, just to date myself a little bit.
Okay.
But I would say, and my partner Kelsey was our first champion. But it took several months to get like the system's really running smoothly. We ultimately had, like I said, we did lots of different methods, but I'd say one of the most powerful ones was just the Kaizen newspaper process, where we had just like the big, 3M, sticky, whiteboard, paper tear off things. And we would just write on there with a Sharpie, like, what waste it was and just a few other columns, sort of the plan, do, check, act, circle. And as we trained employees about, going about your day, look for these wastes. And if you realize you're doing one, just go to the newspaper and write it down. And we had newspapers all over the shop. We had one in the office and in the programming room and in the production area and in the prototype area and in assembly or wherever. And so it wasn't more than a few steps away to just go write down the waste. And then each area would have a team that people would rotate, in and out of over maybe a quarter at a time. And, once a week they would get together and like look at the actions, the waste that their teammates or themselves had written down over that week. And they'd start tackling them, right? And they'd look for like the highest ROI ones, things that you don't need a big investment. It's just something small. But we did thousands, literally, of tickets over many years. And I don't know if you have read Paul Akers' book, 2 Second Lean.
Yep.
But just that concept of, continually removing small waste to get your job 2 seconds faster every day. And sometimes you make a big leap, by doing something a little bit bigger. But yeah, so powerful, so incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And
it sounds like getting you, I think, just from everything you've been describing, are really good at getting your team excited and rallied behind you. So I don't think it's going to be any problem to get the buy-in once you make, let's really encode this into our daily work.
Yeah.
Very cool. I think we are getting close to. I mean, this story. Your story is so inspiring, and I know people are going to absolutely love this episode. So you've already shared. I'm just kind of looking through my last questions here. Sure. Best advice. Get that mentorship. Get those peers around you. Yeah, so important.
Yes. I mean, shoot, call me, email me. I would love to walk you through it too. Like,
that's
just
incredible.
having somebody to bounce off ideas, to know the struggle of like, oh my goodness, I can't pay myself. Well, that's okay. Like, let's talk through it. Just having somebody there to hold you when you want to break.
Yeah. That's very
and even
kind.
mature business owners too. Sometimes like we joke that I quit like 14 times.
Oh, sure.
But just always going back. It's not time to quit yet. It's not time to quit. Let's go another round.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Do you remember times where it felt like everything was going so wrong that there's no way you could possibly get out of this particular, bad series of events?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Do you actually remember the details now of what they were?
So I think it's almost like giving birth, Paul. You forget the bad after the good comes out of it. But I do remember, like, I don't remember all the details, but I remember very vividly. I was in Jason's office and we were talking through a few things, and I was like, okay, I quit. Like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, I gotta go. And I remember crying and just I can't. And then he just like, all right, what's one thing we can change that'll help us right now? And then we just started small. It was like, okay, well, if I just had like somebody to buy the Sam's stuff, for the break room and provide snacks, well, then let's hire an assistant, so it was just like those just little things like, well, the house is a mess. Well, let's get a house cleaner. Okay. Like, let's go find, so it was, okay, focus on the little wins, even though everything is just falling apart. And that was his wisdom. Like, all right, give me one thing that I can take off your plate so that it'll make it better, So get those little wins, and then before long, it's not as bad as it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
When it's all crashing down, focus on one thing you can fix.
Yeah. Well, the part for me that I think is just a powerful lesson is I know I had that, growing pro CNC, so many times where like something would go wrong or something would just be really hard. And I'd be like, this is the end. Like, there's no way we're going to make it through this.
Yeah.
But I swear to you, I don't know how many times that happened, probably a dozen or two. To this day, I don't have a single memory of what those things actually were. It was just the actual feeling that this was such a big thing so I remember the feeling. I just don't remember the details, which to me, underscores that even when something feels incredibly huge, in the grand scheme of your business and growing it for years and years, almost nothing is that huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for you, the not getting, if that CEO hadn't called you and said, I'll personally approve you, like that could have been the defining event, but thankfully it wasn't. But whether you scrapped a bunch of parts or whether, you couldn't renew your lease or like what, you're going to figure it out. You're going to move forward. It may seem insurmountable today, but even a year or two from now, you won't even remember what that actually was. But you remember the feeling of how hard it was. And focusing on one small thing you can do to move forward or go for a walk, take some deep breaths, get a tiny bit more perspective and come back at it with some renewed energy, it's just something you do.
You're so right. Cause I can't remember all the details, but it just, that feeling, it's like Indiana Jones, that big ball rolling towards you, like it's going to take me out,
Sure. I love that analogy.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, if people want to know more about HTS Coatings, how would they reach out, learn more?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can share my email, but you can email me. You can message me on LinkedIn too. or go on our website, any of those things.
And your website, we'll make sure it's in the show notes, but for people only listening, what is your website?
So it's HTScoatings.com.
Oh, easy. Easy.
Pretty easy.
No dashes, no periods, HTScoatings.com. All right.
Yeah,
perfect.
Easy. So it is coatings, like a winter coat. Everyone's like coatings, like coating. No, not coding.
Right.
Coating. That's my Southern Indiana accent, but
Well, Ashley, I am grateful for you for coming on and sharing everything you shared. It was a really fun time to talk with you, and appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's great to reflect.
Yeah. Sounds like you did some good reflection in preparation for this, which
it was fun.
Awesome.
All
right. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Bye-bye. All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.